The security guard's hand closed around Marcus Hill's shoulder, hard enough to stop his breath. "You don't belong on this floor," the guard said, voice low, public final. The words landed in the glass corridor, like a verdict, loud without volume, while people in tailored suits pretended not to stare. Marcus did not pull away. He did not apologize. He stood very still, clipboard pressed flat against his chest, feeling the slow burn spread under the guard's grip. 41 years old, 6'2". Broad shoulders softened by years of learning when to shrink. He could smell the guard's aftershave. Sharp, cheap, defensive. Behind the guard, the executive floor stretched out in clean lines and muted light. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Quiet carpet. A long table at the far end of the corridor where men and women twice his salary spoke softly about numbers large enough to change cities. This was the 32nd floor of Ravenwood Group, a place Marcus normally saw only through locked doors and security cameras. "I'm scheduled to be here," Marcus said. His voice came out even. Calm. It surprised the guard. The guard tightened his fingers instead. "Maintenance is done after hours. You know the rules." Marcus did know the rules. He had memorized them the way other men memorized sports scores. Where to walk, where not to pause, when to lower his eyes, when silence kept him safe. He glanced down at the badge clipped to his shirt, blue polo name stitched in white thread. Marcus Hill. Facilities. Down the hall a woman turned, mid-40s, silver hair cut sharp at the jaw, a black suit that didn't need decoration. She paused mid-sentence tablet, tucked under one arm, eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. Not him. The disruption. The wrong shape in the right space. The guard noticed her look and released Marcus, instantly stepping back as if burned. "Sorry, miss." "Reynolds," he said. Victoria Reynolds did not answer. She looked at Marcus now, really looked. Her gaze was not angry, it was assessing, cold, as if he were a misfiled document that had somehow reached her desk. Marcus felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the instinct to disappear. He nodded, once respectful, already preparing to step away to return to the quiet corridors where no one grabbed his arm. "Why is he here?" Victoria asked. Her voice carried without effort, controlled. The guard swallowed. "We had an alert about unauthorized access." Marcus lifted the clipboard slightly. "I was called for a systems check," he said. "Server room alarm on level 31. It cascaded. Victoria's eyes flicked to the clipboard, then to the guard. "Who called it in?" The guard hesitated. A fraction of a second too long. "I did," a voice said from behind Marcus. It was Denise Carter, late 50s operations coordinator, standing stiff-backed near the elevators. Her hands were clasped so tight her knuckles showed white. "The alert came through my console. Facilities protocol. Silence spread. Thick, uncomfortable, the kind that made people shift their weight and glance at the floor." Victoria studied Denise, then Marcus again. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Fine," she said. "He can finish." She turned and walked away, heels precise against carpet, already speaking into her tablet, as if nothing had happened. Marcus exhaled slowly. The guard avoided his eyes. Denise gave him a look that was half apology, half warning. Marcus nodded. He moved past them toward the stairwell, heart still hammering the echo of that hand on his shoulder, lingering like a bruise. This was how it always began. With a mistake that wasn't his. With a presence that became a problem simply by existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. Marcus descended the stairs, 2 at a time, the smell of metal and cleaning solution grounding him. He reached level 31 and pushed into the server corridor, a narrow space humming with quiet power. Racks of blinking lights, cool air, predictable systems. Machines made sense. People did not. He knelt, checked the panel fingers moving from habit. The alarm was real. A voltage irregularity, subtle but dangerous. The kind of thing that didn't scream until it was too late. Marcus adjusted the settings, rerouted the load. The hum steadied. As he worked, he thought of Ella, 7 years old. Waiting at home with her homework spread across the kitchen table, pencil-chewed flat hair pulled into a lopsided ponytail she refused to redo. He pictured her grin when he walked through the door, the way she ran full speed into his legs like the world had been holding its breath until he came back. That was why he stayed invisible, why he let hands grab his shoulder and voices tell him where he belonged. Because invisibility kept the lights on. When he finished, he logged the fix and started back toward the service elevator. His phone vibrated once in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. You did the right thing. He stopped walking. The corridor lights buzzed softly. Marcus read the message again. No signature, no context. Another vibration followed. Be careful. His pulse picked up. He glanced around the hallway, empty cameras, silent. He slipped the phone back into his pocket and kept moving shoulders tight. By the time he reached the 5th floor, the building had shifted into its late afternoon rhythm. Doors opening and closing, low conversations, the smell of coffee turning stale. Marcus turned the corner toward his workstation, near the service elevator, and stopped short. Something was there that hadn't been there that morning. A small box, matte black, sitting squarely on his desk. No label, no logo. Just his name, written in neat block letters across the top. Marcus Hill. His coffee cup trembled slightly in his hand. He set it down before it spilled. He did not touch the box right away. He scanned the area the way he did when something felt wrong. No one nearby. A cleaning cart down the hall. A pair of accountants whispering by the window's eyes, flicking toward him, then away too quickly. Marcus opened the box. Inside lay a slim leather folder. Expensive. Heavy. Tucked into it was a single card. No envelope, no greeting. Thank you for last October. That was all. No name, no explanation. Marcus's mouth went dry. October. He searched his memory. Long nights, extra shifts, the service elevator rides where people talked because no one important was listening. The folder contained a bank statement, printout. One line circled in red. A transfer scheduled, 5 figures. Enough to change things, enough to be dangerous. Marcus closed the box slowly. His heart thudded against his ribs. This was not gratitude. This was leverage, or bait. Behind him, someone cleared their throat. Marcus turned. Denise stood there, eyes fixed on the box, her face pale. You need to get rid of that, she said quietly. Why, Marcus asked. Because people are watching now, Denise said. Her voice shook. And when they watch, they decide. Marcus looked back at the box. He thought of the guard's hand, Victoria's eyes, the text message with no name, the money that hadn't arrived yet, but already weighed on him. He closed the lid and slid the box into the bottom drawer of his desk. Locked it. That night, as he drove to pick up Ella under a sky heavy with rain, Marcus felt it settling in his bones, the sense that something had shifted, that the life he had carefully kept small was being pulled into a larger story, one that did not ask permission. He did not know yet who had sent the box, or why. But somewhere high above the city, behind glass and quiet carpet decisions, were already being made about him. By the next morning, the building knew his name. Not spoken out loud, not directly, but carried in glances that lingered a half-second too long, and conversations that stopped when Marcus Hill stepped into a room. He felt it, before he saw it, the way a storm announces itself through pressure rather than sound. The air on the 5th floor was tighter, sharper. The black box stayed locked in his drawer. Marcus hadn't slept much. He had sat on the edge of his bed, long after Ella drifted off, staring at the wall, while rain ticked against the window, replaying the server room alarm, the text messages, the number circled in red. 5 figures. A promise. A threat. He had learned young that money never appeared without intention. At 7:45 in the morning, his badge hesitated at the security gate. The light blinked yellow instead of green. A pause long enough to be noticed. The guard scanned him with practiced indifference, tapped a few keys and waved him through without comment. Marcus said nothing. He logged it away. On the elevator, 2 men in tailored jackets stood shoulder to shoulder, murmuring about a board call that had ended badly. One of them glanced at Marcus's reflection in the mirrored wall, then leaned closer to the other man and lowered his voice further, as if Marcus's presence changed the acoustics of the space. The doors opened on 5. Marcus stepped out and felt eyes on his back. The box was gone. The drawer hung open, lock-twisted metal scratched around the keyhole like it had been forced in a hurry. Marcus froze, hand still on the handle, breath shallow. He scanned the workstation. Nothing else disturbed. Clipboard aligned. Tools untouched. Only the box missing like it had never existed at all. "You looking for something?" a voice asked. He turned. Aaron Pike stood a few feet away, early 30s compliance officer smile that never reached his eyes. His tie was too tight, his posture too relaxed. Someone pretending to belong everywhere. "My drawer was opened," Marcus said. Aaron nodded, as if Marcus had commented on the weather. "Security sweep last night. Routine." "They don't usually break locks," Marcus said. Aaron's smile sharpened. "Unusual circumstances." Marcus felt the familiar pull to let it go, to nod, to retreat. Instead, he held Aaron's gaze. "Who authorized it?" The pause was brief but telling. "Above my pay grade," Aaron said. "If you have concerns, you can submit them." Marcus looked past him at the glass-walled offices lining the floor. People inside pretended to work while listening hard. "I already did," he said quietly. Aaron's eyes flicked, calculating. "Careful," he said. "You don't want attention you can't control." Marcus watched him walk away, the warning hanging heavy in the space he left behind. At 10:15, Denise Carter appeared at his desk with a stack of printed reports held like a shield. "You didn't hear this from me," she said, without preamble voice, barely moving her lips. But compliance pulled footage from the service elevators. "They're building a timeline." For what Marcus asked. Denise swallowed. "For October." Marcus felt his chest tighten. What happened in October? Denise looked at him like he was asking the wrong question. "Exactly," she said. The building shifted again around noon. A ripple, subtle but undeniable. A calendar update appeared in Marcus's inbox, no explanation attached. Mandatory briefing. Executive conference room, 32nd floor. 1 hour. He stared at the screen. That room again. That floor. He could feel the hand on his shoulder all over. "You don't have to go," Denise said, though they both knew that wasn't true. Marcus closed the laptop. "Yes," he said. "I do." The elevator ride-up felt longer this time. Each floor chimed softly, counting down like a measured breath. When the doors opened, the corridor waited for him, quiet and watching. Inside the conference room, the glass table reflected the city in fractured lines. Victoria Reynolds stood at the head arms crossed, gaze fixed on the skyline. Around the table sat 6 others. Legal, compliance, operations, faces composed, unreadable. No empty chair. No invitation. Marcus remained standing. Victoria turned. Her eyes landed on him and stayed there. "Sit," she said. He did. The chair felt smaller than he remembered. "Mr. Hill," Victoria said, voice smooth. "You were involved in an incident last October." Marcus said nothing. "You were working late," she continued. "After hours. Service elevator." Another employee from a tenant firm was present. Marcus pictured the elevator. The hum. The man with shaking hands who couldn't stop talking once he started. The smell of fear. "He no longer works for that firm," Victoria said. "He no longer works at all." The words settled like dust. He made a formal statement, Aaron Pike said from across the table. Claimed coercion. Marcus laughed, once short and sharp, before he could stop himself. Every head turned. "I listened," Marcus said. "That's what he's calling coercion." Aaron's mouth tightened. "He claims you pressured him." "To do what Marcus asked, to delay a report," Aaron said. The room went still. Victoria leaned forward. "Did you?" Marcus met her gaze. "No." "Did you offer him anything she asked?" "No." "Did you receive anything she asked?" Marcus felt the trap close, clean and precise. "Not then," he said. Silence. Heavy. Loaded. Victoria watched him carefully. But later, she said. Marcus breathed in through his nose. "Someone sent me something yesterday," he said. "I didn't ask for it. I didn't accept it." Aaron's pen paused mid-air. "Define accept." "It never cleared," Marcus said. "And now it's gone." Victoria's jaw set. "You're saying evidence disappeared from company property?" "I'm saying it was taken," Marcus said. "By whom?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. "That's what I'm trying to find out." The city outside the windows gleamed indifferent. Victoria straightened. "This company operates on control," she said. "We don't allow loose ends." Marcus felt the weight of every pair of eyes on him, measuring, judging, preparing. He thought of Ella's homework on the table. The plant she kept asking for. The life he had built carefully, quietly. "You brought me up here because you think I'm a loose end," he said. No one corrected him. Victoria held his gaze. "We brought you up here," she said, "because we don't yet know what you are." The meeting ended without resolution. No accusations, no exoneration. Just a promise of scrutiny. As Marcus stood to leave, Victoria spoke again, softer this time, meant only for him. "Be very sure," she said, "that whatever game you think you're in, you understand the rules." Marcus nodded once. He left the room with his spine, straight pulse, roaring in his ears. On the ride down, his phone vibrated. A new message, unknown number. "They're not your enemy. Not yet." A second message followed before he could respond. "You were chosen because you don't see yourself clearly." Marcus closed his eyes as the elevator descended the building, humming around him like a living thing. For the first time, he understood something with cold certainty. Whatever had started in October had not ended. It had only been waiting. Marcus Hill realized something was wrong the moment the fire alarm failed to sound. The lights flickered once on the 5th floor, not enough to draw attention, just enough to make people pause mid-step. Then the HVAC shut down with a long metallic sigh, like a building exhaling its last breath. Conversations died. Computer fans whined and went quiet. The silence pressed in, unnatural heavy. Marcus was already moving before anyone called his name. He felt the failure in his bones the way a sailor feels a storm before the clouds gather. This was not a random outage. This was layered, intentional. Marcus Denise Carter called from across the floor, her voice tight. 32 just went dark. Of course it did. He grabbed his toolkit and headed for the service elevator. The public elevators were already jammed with executives demanding answers into their phones. Someone shouted about quarterly calls dropping. Another voice cracked sharp with panic about data loss. Marcus kept his eyes forward. He did not run. Running drew attention. The service elevator stalled between floors. The jolt was subtle, almost polite. The lights stayed on. The doors did not open. The car simply stopped suspended in a narrow throat of concrete and steel. Marcus felt the shift through the soles of his boots. He pressed the emergency panel. Nothing. Then his phone vibrated. No signal bars. One message. This is the test. His pulse kicked. He scanned the ceiling camera, the corners of the emergency latch. The building was quiet in a way that felt staged. Like an audience holding its breath. The intercom crackled. "Remain calm," a voice said. "Male. Controlled. Not building security. Assistance is en route." Marcus did not answer. He knelt, popped the panel with practiced ease, and exposed the wiring. The cut was clean. Too clean. Someone with access had done this, not a random failure. He bridged the connection, manually coaxing power back into the system. The elevator shuddered and resumed its descent, slow but obedient. When the doors opened on 31, heat rolled in like a physical force. The server corridor was dark, except for emergency strips along the floor. The hum was gone. Dead racks, dead lines. This was bigger than a localized fault. Marcus moved fast now. He crossed the corridor, fingers flying over panels, rerouting load, isolating segments. Sweat slid down his back. He could hear his own breathing loud in the narrow space. From the far end, a figure emerged from the shadows. "Don't touch that," the man said. Marcus straightened. The man stepped into the emergency light. Late 30s. Expensive shoes ruined by the heat. No badge. No reason to be there. His smile was thin, rehearsed. "You're not facilities," Marcus said. The man shrugged. "I am today." Marcus recognized him suddenly. Not from the office. From October. The elevator. The shaking hands. The voice that wouldn't stop once it started. "You," Marcus said. The man flinched. Just a little. "You were supposed to stay quiet." "I did," Marcus said. "You didn't." The man's jaw worked. "You think this is about you listening? About kindness?" He laughed, brittle. "This is about leverage." The lights flickered again. Somewhere above them, glass cracked. "You filed a statement," Marcus said. "You said I pressured you. I said what they needed me to say." The man snapped. "I was told you were dangerous." Marcus stepped closer, voice low. "Who told you?" Before the man could answer, the corridor filled with footsteps. Security. Fast. Coordinated. The man's eyes widened. "Marcus Hill," a voice barked. "Step away from the equipment." Marcus turned slowly. 3 guards. Aaron Pike behind them, calm as a metronome. "Perfect timing," Aaron said. "We were just discussing accountability." The man backed away, hands up. "He did it," he blurted. "He's sabotaging the system." Marcus stared at him. "You came here," Marcus said. "You cut the lines." Aaron raised a hand. "We'll sort that out." His eyes never left Marcus. "For now I need you to come with us." Above them, the emergency lights died. Full dark. A collective gasp rippled through the building. Somewhere glass shattered. Someone screamed. Marcus moved. He lunged past the guards, yanked a manual override, and slammed it home. Power surged back through a single spine. Enough. Screens blinked alive. Alarms finally screamed, late but furious. The building breathed again. In the chaos, Marcus felt a hand grab his arm. Not rough. Desperate. The man from October. "They're using you," he said, voice cracking. "They need a fall guy." "So do you," Marcus said. He pulled free and turned to face Aaron, who stood very still amid the noise. "You planned this," Marcus said. Aaron's smile returned, small and precise. "We planned a contingency." Sirens wailed outside. Fire trucks. Police. The lobby below churned. Victoria Reynolds appeared at the corridor entrance, hair, immaculate eyes, blazing. She took in the scene in a single sweep. The guards. The man. Marcus with his hands still on the panel. "What happened?" she said. Aaron spoke first. Unauthorized access. Systems interference. Mr. Hill was present. Victoria's gaze locked on Marcus. "Were you?" Marcus wiped sweat from his brow. He felt the building under his hands alive, because he had made it so. "I stopped it," he said. "A beat. 2. The sirens outside grew louder. Victoria turned to the man from October. "You," she said. "You filed a statement." The man nodded frantically. "I was told to." By whom, she asked. He looked at Aaron, then away. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Answer." "A consultant," the man whispered. "Compliance." Silence cut through the noise like a blade. Victoria turned back to Marcus. For the first time, her voice changed. Not softer, sharper, focused. "Why didn't you leave when you could?" Marcus thought of the elevator stopping, of the message, of Ella's face. "Because if I did," he said, "people would get hurt." Victoria studied him. The building's lights steadied. Data streams came back online. Somewhere applause broke out, scattered and uncertain. "Take him," Aaron said quietly, nodding at Marcus. "No," Victoria said. The word landed hard. Aaron stiffened. "This is procedure." "This," Victoria said, stepping closer to Marcus, "is competence." She turned to the guards. "Stand down." They hesitated, then obeyed. Victoria faced Marcus again. Her eyes searched his face, not for guilt, but for something else. Resolve, limits, the shape of a man who would not run when it mattered. "You're coming with me," she said. "Not downstairs. Upstairs." Aaron opened his mouth. Victoria cut him off without looking. "If there is a conspiracy inside my company," she said, "I will find it." She met Marcus's gaze. "And you," she added, "are no longer invisible." Marcus felt the weight of that sentence settle over him, heavier than any accusation. As they walked toward the stairs, past the guards, past the man who would not meet his eyes, Marcus understood the truth with sudden clarity. The test had never been about breaking the system. It had been about watching who would hold it together when it broke. The first thing Marcus noticed in Victoria Reynolds's private elevator was the silence. No music. No recorded voice announcing floors. Just the soft glide of machinery and the faint pressure change in his ears as the car rose above the noise of the building. Victoria stood with her back, straight eyes, forward, one hand resting lightly against the brushed steel wall. She did not look at him. That was worse than accusation. It meant calculation was still underway. "You disobeyed a direct order," she said finally. "I followed the right one," Marcus replied. His voice stayed level, though his pulse had not slowed. She turned, then slow, deliberate. "You decided what mattered," she said. "Yes." The elevator climbed. Marcus felt the weight of every second stretching. "People like you," Victoria said, "usually wait to be told what matters." Marcus did not flinch. "People like me," he said, Learn early what breaks when no one's watching. The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto a floor Marcus had never set foot on. No cubicles, no open desks, just glass, wood, and distance, the kind of space designed to remind you who owned it. Victoria stepped out. Marcus followed. Her office was not what he expected. No towering desk, no walls of awards. Instead, a long table, 2 chairs, a city spread wide through the windows, grey and restless under low clouds. "Sit," she said. Marcus remained standing. "You brought me here to decide something," he said. "I'd rather know what it is before I sit down." Victoria studied him for a moment that felt longer than it was. Then she nodded once. "Fair." She walked to the window. "Aaron Pike was placed in compliance 18 months ago," she said. "On paper he came highly recommended. In reality," Marcus said. "In reality," she continued, "he was placed." Marcus's jaw tightened. "By whom?" Victoria turned back slowly. "By my board." The word landed with weight. Not abstract, not distant. The board was the spine of power, untouchable, invisible. "They wanted eyes where I wasn't looking," she said. "Control I didn't authorize." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. And now, she said, someone tried to collapse part of my building during market hours. "Not part," Marcus said. "A spine, enough to cascade." Victoria's gaze sharpened. "You're certain?" "Yes." Silence. Outside, traffic moved like a slow river. "You saved lives today," she said. "I did my job," Marcus said. "No," she replied. "You broke protocol." Marcus met her eyes. "Protocol would have let it burn." She looked away first. "Sit," she said again. This time, Marcus did. Victoria took the chair across from him, not the head of the table. That alone told him this meeting was different. "They are testing me," she said. "The board. They think I've grown sentimental." Marcus said nothing. "They believe control is weakness," she continued. "That too much humanity destabilizes systems." Marcus folded his hands. "And you? I believe systems fail when they forget who bleeds," she said. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. "Aaron Pike will not be removed easily," she said. "If I move too fast, they will protect him, and they will destroy whoever forced my hand." Marcus understood then. The box, the money, the statement, the outage, all pieces. Not to take him down alone, to force her choice. "You think they're using me to test you?" Marcus said. "Yes, and if you fail," he said, "they replace me." The honesty was sharp, rare, dangerous. Victoria leaned back. "You could walk away," she said. "Transfer, settlement." Silence. Marcus thought of Ella, of the plant she wanted, of the drawer broken open, of the man in the server corridor shaking with fear and guilt. "No," Marcus said. Victoria watched him closely. "Why?" "Because if I do," Marcus said, "they learn it works." A faint smile touched her mouth, then vanished. "You understand the risk," she said. "Yes." "And you're still here." "Yes." Another silence. This one different. Charged. Victoria stood. "Then we do this properly." She moved to a wall panel Marcus hadn't noticed, pressed her palm flat. The glass shifted, revealing another room beyond, smaller, darker, screens alive with data. "This is not official," she said. "It does not exist." Marcus rose slowly. "They think they're watching you," she continued. "What they don't know is that I'm watching them." She gestured to a chair in the hidden room. "I need someone who sees patterns before reports do." Marcus hesitated. "If I step into this," he said, "there's no pretending I'm invisible." Victoria met his gaze, unblinking. "You stopped being invisible the moment you chose not to let that building go dark." Marcus sat, the screens reflected in his eyes. Data streams, access logs, timelines that told stories if you knew how to listen. "What do you want me to find?" he asked. Victoria's voice dropped. The moment control became fear. Hours passed without ceremony. Marcus traced anomalies through the system fingers, moving with quiet certainty. He saw patterns where others saw noise. Access pings at odd hours. Overrides stacked just under alert thresholds. A choreography designed to look like coincidence. "They're not testing systems," Marcus said finally. "They're testing people." Victoria nodded. "Who breaks? Who stays silent? And who fixes things?" Marcus added. Her eyes flicked to him. "Yes." The door behind them opened without warning. Denise Carter stood there, breathless. "Security just locked down Aaron Pike's office," she said. "Board order." Victoria's jaw set. "They're moving early." Marcus glanced at the screens. "Because they know," he said. "Know what Denise asked?" Marcus looked up. That the outage failed. A low hum filled the hidden room as backup generators kicked in elsewhere. Victoria straightened. "Then we accelerate." She turned to Marcus. "From this moment on," she said, "you answer to me. Off the books. No badges. No titles." Marcus thought of how titles had never protected him anyway. "And when they come for me," he said. "They will," Victoria replied. "And when they do, I need you standing." Marcus nodded once. Outside the hidden room, the building continued its routine, unaware that something fundamental had shifted within its walls. Marcus felt it, like a tightening coil, a story pulling itself into focus. He did not know yet how far this would go or what it would cost. He only knew one thing with absolute clarity. Whatever power thought it could use him as leverage had made a mistake. By the third day, the pressure stopped pretending to be subtle. Marcus felt it the moment he stepped out of his car in the underground garage. 2 security vehicles instead of 1. A new camera mounted above the service corridor entrance, its lens tracking with a fraction of a second delay that told him it had been installed in a hurry. He adjusted his jacket, slowed his pace, and walked as if nothing had changed. Inside the building moved differently around him. Doors opened a beat too late. Conversations dropped when he passed. The air carried a low, static hum, not electrical, but human. Fear mixed with anticipation. Victoria had warned him this would happen. Acceleration always announced itself through resistance. He took the stairs instead of the elevator, counting his breaths, listening to the building's internal rhythm. On the 20th floor, he heard voices before he reached the landing. Denise Carter stood with 2 members of legal, both younger than her, both speaking in clipped, careful phrases. "He doesn't have clearance," one of them said. "He has necessity," Denise replied. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was tight. "There's a difference." Marcus stepped into view. The legal team fell silent. One of them glanced down at his tablet, avoiding eye contact. "We need access to last night's logs," Marcus said. "That's restricted," the taller one said. "So is sabotage," Marcus replied. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Denise held the door open. "I'll take responsibility," she said. The legal officers exchanged a look. Responsibility was contagious. Dangerous. They stepped aside. Inside the data room, Marcus felt the familiar calm settle over him. The screens glowed with ordered chaos. He slid into the chair, fingers moving, pulling threads others had missed. "There," he said after a moment. "That's not a user error." Denise leaned closer. "What is it?" "A mirror," Marcus said. "Someone's running shadow access through a legacy node." Her eyes widened. "That was decommissioned." officially Marcus said, not functionally. He isolated the node, watching the activity spike, then scatter. Whoever was on the other end knew they'd been noticed. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. You're getting warmer. Marcus ignored it. He'd learned the value of silence early. At noon, the building lost internet connectivity. Not all at once. In waves. Enough to disrupt, not enough to panic. Marcus watched the dashboards light up, alerts stacking. This wasn't an attack meant to destroy. It was a provocation. They want a reaction, Denise said. They want to see who moves. Marcus replied. The call came 15 minutes later. Victoria's voice tight. Conference room B. Now. The room was smaller than the executive suite walls, opaque lights low. Victoria stood at the table with two board representatives Marcus had never met in person. Men in their late 60s, posture rigid faces, practiced into neutrality. Power that didn't need to announce itself. This is Marcus Hill, Victoria said. He's assisting with system integrity. One of the men smiled thinly. Facilities, he said, as if tasting something unpleasant. Risk mitigation, Marcus corrected. The other man leaned back. You've been busy, he said. Causing disruptions. Marcus met his gaze. Preventing them. Victoria watched closely. She had not interrupted. That was deliberate. We're concerned, the first man said, about unauthorized influence. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then you should be. The silence stretched. Victoria's eyes flicked to him, warning, but she did not stop him. Your systems have been compromised for months, Marcus continued. Not by outsiders, by people you trust. The second man's smile vanished. That's a serious accusation. So is negligence, Marcus replied. Victoria stepped in then. Enough, she said. This meeting is over. The men rose. One of them paused, eyes on Marcus. Be careful, he said softly. People who see too much tend to disappear. Marcus did not respond. He had already survived disappearance. The fallout was immediate. By mid-afternoon, HR issued a notice. Marcus's access badge would be reviewed, his role redefined, language vague enough to hide intent. Denise found him in the stairwell, breathing hard. They're pushing for suspension, she said. Marcus nodded. I expected that. You're calm, she said. I'm focused, he replied. There's a difference. He returned to the hidden room late that evening, long after most of the building had emptied. Victoria was there, jacket off, sleeves rolled, eyes sharp with exhaustion. They're closing ranks, she said. If they isolate you, they think this ends. It doesn't, Marcus said. He pulled up the latest logs. Because they made a mistake. Her gaze sharpened. What mistake? They assumed I needed access, Marcus said. I don't. He brought up a schematic. This building talks to the city grid. Permits, inspections, third-party audits. You can hide from your own systems. You can't hide from the ones you don't control. Victoria studied the screen. You're saying the evidence isn't here. I'm saying it's everywhere, Marcus replied. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then set it face down. If you do this, she said, there's no shielding you. Marcus thought of Ella asleep in her bed, of the quiet life he'd built with careful hands. He felt the fear acknowledged it and set it aside. I know, he said. Victoria held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. Then we do it clean. The building hummed around them, unaware that its quiet rhythms were about to be disrupted again, this time not by sabotage, but by exposure. As Marcus packed up to leave, his phone vibrated once more. A final message. You think you're in control now? Marcus typed back for the first time. No, I think you're scared. He slipped the phone into his pocket and walked out into the night, the city spread before him like a map of consequences. The next move would not belong to the shadows. The subpoena arrived before sunrise, slipped under Marcus Hill's apartment door, like a quiet threat that didn't need to knock. He found it when he stepped over Ella's sneakers in the hallway, still half asleep, coffee, not yet brewed. Thick paper, state seal, his name printed clean and undeniable. Marcus read it once, then again, the words sinking in with a dull certainty. Testimony required. Documents requested. Failure to comply, subject to penalty. The language was polite, final. Ella padded out of her room, rubbing her eyes. "Dad," she said, already smiling. "You're up early." Marcus folded the papers carefully and set them on the counter face down. "Go brush your teeth," he said gently. "I'll make pancakes." He moved through the morning on instinct. Batter stirred. Pan heated. The small rituals anchored him. Outside, the city woke slowly, traffic building like a distant tide. Inside, he listened to Ella talk about a spelling test and a science project due Friday. He answered when needed, laughed in the right places. He did not let his hands shake. After he dropped her at school, Marcus sat in the car for a long moment, forehead resting against the steering wheel. This was the line they had chosen. Not internal discipline, not quiet removal. Law, public record. Something that could not be undone. His phone rang. Victoria Reynolds. "I know," she said before he could speak. Her voice was steady, but he heard the strain underneath. "They moved faster than I expected. They always do when they're cornered," Marcus replied. "They're framing this as a compliance failure," she said. "Misconduct. Influence." Marcus watched a crossing guard hold up a hand, stopping traffic, so a line of children could pass. Bright vests, small bodies, order maintained by trust. "It won't hold," he said. "You're certain?" Victoria asked. "Yes." Silence stretched. "I can shield you internally," she said. "But once it's public, my reach ends," I know Marcus said. "That's why they chose this." He hung up and drove to work, feeling the city tighten around him. News vans already clustered near the building by the time he arrived. Cameras, microphones, reporters rehearsing concerned expressions. The story was forming before anyone had spoken a word. Inside the lobby buzzed with controlled chaos. Security redirected employees through side entrances. HR staff whispered in corners. Marcus moved through it all unseen the way he always had, until someone called his name out loud. "Mr. Hill." He turned. A woman in a tailored blazer, late 40s, sharp eyes. Assistant Attorney General according to the badge clipped at her waist. "I'm Linda Morales," she said. "We'll be seeing each other." Marcus nodded once. "I'll cooperate," he said. "I'm sure you will," she replied. Her gaze lingered, searching for something. Fear, arrogance. She found neither. By mid-morning, his access was officially suspended. Not fired, not cleared, held in limbo, the most dangerous place to exist. Denise found him in the stairwell again, eyes bright with anger this time. "They're throwing you to the wolves," she said. "They already did," Marcus replied. "You shouldn't be alone in this," she said. "I'm not," he answered. At noon, Victoria summoned the board to an emergency session. Marcus was not invited. That was expected. He sat instead in the hidden room, screens muted, listening through channels he no longer officially possessed. Voices layered, frustration, control slipping. Someone mentioned his name like a flaw in a design. Someone else suggested distance, liability, sacrifice. "He's a risk," one voice said. "He's a shield," another countered. Marcus closed his eyes, filtering signal from noise. He pulled up city records, permit filings, maintenance logs filed with municipal oversight months before. Patterns emerged: delays, overrides, names that repeated across unrelated systems. The conspiracy was not elegant. It was lazy, built on the assumption that no one would ever connect the dots. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're about to learn how alone you are." Marcus typed back without hesitation. "I learned that a long time ago." The reply came instantly. "Then you know what happens next." Marcus did. Retaliation escalated when exposure failed. He forwarded the compiled files to a secure address Victoria had given him weeks ago, one she said only existed for emergencies. Minutes later, alarms lit up across the city grid. Not failures, audits. Automatic triggers tied to discrepancies Marcus had flagged, permits suspended, inspections ordered, external eyes turning inward. The boardroom voices shifted. Panic leaked through controlled tones. Someone demanded to know who had authorized the alerts. Someone else cursed. Victoria spoke once, cutting through the noise. "I did." The room went quiet. "You don't have that authority," a man snapped. "I do now," she replied. Marcus exhaled slowly. He leaned back in the chair, feeling the weight of it all press in. This was no longer about him. It never had been. He was simply the point where pressure became visible. By late afternoon, Aaron Pike was escorted out of the building. Not in handcuffs. Yet. His face was pale eyes darting the smile finally gone. Cameras flashed. The narrative cracked. Marcus watched from a distance as the city began to understand what had been hidden. He felt no triumph, only a deep, steady resolve. His phone rang again. "Victoria, they're calling for your testimony first thing tomorrow," she said. "I'll be there," Marcus replied. "They're going to try to break you," she said quietly. Marcus thought of Ella spelling words at the kitchen table, of pancakes and routines and the life he protected. "They won't," he said. That night, as he tucked Ella into bed, she looked up at him with serious eyes. "Are you in trouble?" she asked. Marcus hesitated, then smiled. "I'm doing the right thing," he said. She nodded, satisfied. Children understood that language better than most adults. After she fell asleep, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table, subpoena spread before him, city lights flickering through the window. Somewhere downtown, power structures shifted fragile and loud. Tomorrow he would speak in rooms designed to make men shrink. He would answer questions meant to trap him. He would stand without a title, without protection, carrying only the truth and the quiet strength of a man who had been underestimated his entire life. And for the first time since this began, Marcus allowed himself a single steady thought. They had mistaken silence for weakness. The hearing room smelled like old wood and recycled air, a place designed to drain warmth from the voice before it ever reached the microphone. Marcus Hill took his seat at the narrow table and placed his hands flat on the surface, palms down, grounding himself in the grain. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. Every sound did. Across the room, Assistant Attorney General Linda Morales shuffled papers with deliberate slowness. She did not look at Marcus yet. She let the waiting do its work. On the benches behind her, reporters adjusted lenses and whispered to producers. Somewhere in the back, a cough echoed and died. "State your name for the record," Morales said at last. "Marcus Hill," he replied. His voice carried farther than he expected. He did not clear his throat. Morales nodded once. "Mr. Hill, you were employed by Ravenwood Group as facilities staff." "Yes." "Until your access was suspended following a systems failure." Marcus felt the familiar tightening. Following an attempted systems failure, he said. Morales's eyes flicked up sharp. We'll come to that. She paced slowly as she spoke, shoes tapping in a measured rhythm. In October, you encountered a tenant employee in a service elevator after hours. Yes. And you engaged him in conversation. I listened, Marcus said. Morales stopped. Did you advise him to delay filing a report related to Ravenwood operations? No. Did you suggest alternative actions? I suggested he get help, Marcus said, because he was not okay. A murmur rippled through the benches. Morales raised a hand and it quieted. You're not a counselor, she said. No, Marcus agreed. I'm a person. The words hung there, simple and unyielding. Morales studied him for a long moment. You later received a financial offer, she said. 5 figures. Marcus nodded. Unsolicited. I did not accept it. You didn't report it immediately. I was prevented from doing so, Marcus replied. Morales tilted her head. Prevented how? Evidence was removed from my workspace without authorization, Marcus said. My access was restricted before I could file. Morales turned toward the panel of commissioners seated above. The witness alleges internal interference. I'm stating what happened, Marcus said evenly. Morales walked back to her table. Mr. Hill, she said, voice softening, just enough to sound reasonable. Isn't it true that since these events began, you've had unauthorized access to executive systems? Marcus looked at her directly. No. You coordinated with the chief executive officer? Yes. Without formal designation? Yes. Morales smiled faintly. So you acted outside your role? Marcus inhaled through his nose. I acted within my responsibility. A commissioner leaned forward. Explain the difference. Marcus did not rush. A role is a title, he said. Responsibility is what happens when something breaks and people get hurt if no one fixes it. Silence settled again, heavier this time. Morales's smile faded. She turned a page. You claim there was a coordinated attempt to destabilize Ravenwood systems? Yes. By whom? Marcus met her gaze. By individuals with compliance access and board-level protection. A sharp intake of breath somewhere behind him. Morales's eyes hardened. You're accusing people in this room. I'm describing actions, Marcus said. You can decide who owns them. Morales stepped closer. And you alone uncovered this? Marcus shook his head. No. Who assisted you? City records, Marcus said. Audit trails. Oversight systems that don't answer to Ravenwood. Morales frowned. You triggered municipal audits? Yes. Without authority? Without permission, Marcus corrected. The commissioners exchanged glances. Morales turned back to him, frustration breaking through control. You're very calm for someone under investigation, she said. Marcus thought of Ella, of pancakes and spelling words. I've been under investigation my whole life, he said quietly. The room went still. Even Morales paused. After a moment, she cleared her throat. No further questions at this time. As Marcus stepped down, the weight lifted from his chest just enough to breathe. He passed the benches without looking at the cameras. Outside the room, Victoria Reynolds waited, arms crossed, expression unreadable. You did well, she said once they were alone. I told the truth, Marcus replied. That's what I meant, she said. They walked down the corridor together. They're scrambling, Victoria continued. They didn't expect you to hold the line. Marcus stopped. This isn't over, he said. No, Victoria agreed. But the narrative shifted. As if summoned by the words, a man approached from the far end of the hall. Marcus recognized him instantly. The October elevator. Pale. thinner now. His eyes were clearer, steadier. "Marcus," the man said, "I need to speak." Victoria hesitated. Marcus nodded. She stepped back, giving them space. "I'm sorry," the man said, voice shaking. "They told me you'd ruin everything, that you were dangerous." Marcus studied him. "Why come now?" "Because I watched you in there," the man said. "And because I can't live with it anymore." He swallowed. "I recorded the call." Marcus felt his pulse spike. "What call?" "The one where they told me what to say," the man replied. "Compliance. Aaron Pike." Marcus closed his eyes for a brief second. "You should give that to the state," he said. "I will," the man said. "I already did." Footsteps echoed behind them. Morales emerged from the hearing room phone, pressed to her ear face, tight with urgency. She stopped when she saw them together. "What is this?" she demanded. The man straightened. "My statement," he said. "Amended." Morales stared at him. "You can't just I can," he said. "I did." The corridor filled with voices as staff converged, sensing blood in the water. Cameras appeared. Microphones extended. Morales turned away, barking orders. Victoria stepped back to Marcus's side. "This ends, Aaron," she said quietly. And the bored Marcus replied. Some of them she corrected. Not all. They walked toward the exit together. Outside, the city waited, loud and alive. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Marcus felt the old instinct to disappear, rise up, then fall away. He did not stop. He did not run. At home that evening, Ella met him at the door, holding a paper covered in glitter and uneven letters. "I made you something," she said proudly. He knelt and took it, heart swelling. It read, "You are brave." Marcus hugged her tightly, breathing in the clean scent of soap and crayons. Later, after she slept, he stood by the window and watched the city lights flicker. Somewhere, power was being redistributed, reluctantly, noisily. Somewhere else, people were deciding which side of history they wanted to stand on. Marcus did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time he understood that the quiet strength he had carried alone was no longer invisible. It had been witnessed, and once witnessed, it could not be undone. The city woke up angrier the next morning. Marcus felt it in the news alerts, stacking on his phone before he even left the apartment. Ravenwood Group under investigation. Compliance chief placed on administrative leave. Board members named but not yet charged. Words like systemic failure and institutional blindness repeated until they lost shape. He turned the phone face down and focused on tying Ella's shoes. She wiggled impatiently, backpack already, on humming a tune she'd made up. "You're famous now," she said, without looking up. "I'm not," Marcus replied. "You're on the TV," she said. "Mrs. Keller said so." Marcus tightened the knot and smiled. "Eat your cereal." Outside, the sidewalks buzzed with a sharper energy. People argued into phones. Sirens cut through the air more often than usual. When Marcus dropped Ella at school, a man across the street raised his phone and pointed it at him. Marcus didn't break stride. Fame, he knew, was just another form of misinterpretation. By the time he reached the building, the protesters had arrived. Not many. A dozen at most. Handwritten signs. Accountability now. Protect whistleblowers. One woman locked eyes with Marcus and nodded once, like she recognized something in him. He nodded back. Security ushered him through a side entrance. Inside, the lobby felt hollowed out, the usual hum replaced by tension that crawled under the skin. Denise waited by the elevators, her face drawn. They're tearing through everything she said. Emails, old contracts. People are scared. They should be, Marcus replied. The elevator doors closed. As they rose, Denise exhaled shakily. I didn't think it would move this fast. It always does once it can't be stopped, Marcus said. On the 32nd floor, Victoria Reynolds stood at the window phone, pressed to her ear, listening without speaking. When she ended the call, she didn't turn around right away. They're calling an emergency board session, she said. External counsel present. They're trying to contain it, Marcus said. They're trying to survive it, Victoria corrected. She turned then, her expression stripped of polish. You don't have to be here. Marcus met her gaze. Yes, he said. I do. The boardroom filled quickly. Faces Marcus recognized now, not from charts or org diagrams, but from tone. Who leaned back? Who leaned forward? Who avoided eye contact? Aaron Pike's chair sat empty. It pulled focus like a missing tooth. The chairwoman cleared her throat. We're here to discuss exposure, she said. And liability. Marcus listened as they spoke around him. Words like risk and optics and reputational damage floated weightless and evasive. When someone finally mentioned his name, it landed like a stone dropped into still water. This employee has become a lightning rod, one man said. We need distance. Marcus spoke before Victoria could. Distance won't help you, he said. Heads turned, a ripple of irritation. You're not invited to comment. The man snapped. Marcus didn't raise his voice. I'm already part of the record, he said. Everything you say about me will be examined, including why you think removing the witness removes the truth. Silence followed. Not agreement, recognition. The chairwoman studied him. What do you want? She asked. Marcus didn't hesitate. Nothing personal, he said. I want the systems fixed so this can't happen again. And I want protection for the people who speak up. A few board members scoffed softly. Victoria didn't move. That's not how corporations work, someone said. That's how they survive, Marcus replied. The meeting dissolved without resolution. Lawyers huddled, phones buzzed. As people filed out, Victoria lingered. They're divided, she said quietly. Enough to slow them down. Not enough to change them, Marcus replied. She nodded. Change never comes from agreement. By afternoon, the retaliation sharpened. Marcus's landlord called, voice strained, mentioning concerns. Anonymous complaints had been filed. Noise. Safety. Unsubstantiated but documented. His credit monitoring app pinged twice with unusual inquiries. They're circling, Denise said when he told her. Marcus felt the weight press closer. They're looking for pressure points, Ella Denise said softly. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. That evening as he packed Ella's lunch, his phone rang again. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, then answered. You're hurting people, a man's voice said. Marcus recognized the cadence. Board member. Not the loudest one. The careful one. I'm exposing them, Marcus replied. You're destabilizing an ecosystem, the man said. Do you know how many jobs are at stake? Marcus closed the refrigerator. Do you know how many already? Were he asked. Silence. We can make this easier, the man said finally. Settlement. Quiet transition. You walk away with enough to start over. Marcus thought of the box. The money. The bait. No, he said. You're choosing chaos, the man warned. No, Marcus said. You already did. He hung up. That night, Marcus sat on the couch while Ella colored beside him. The news played muted on the screen. Ravenwood's logo blurred behind scrolling text. Ella looked up suddenly. Are we okay? She asked. Marcus set his hand over hers. Yes, he said. And this time he believed it. Later, when the apartment was quiet, Marcus stepped onto the balcony. The city stretched out below, restless and bright. He felt tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix, but beneath it was something steadier. Resolve sharpened by clarity. His phone vibrated one last time. A message from Victoria. "They've scheduled a public statement tomorrow. Full disclosure," Marcus typed back. "I'll be there." He leaned against the railing and breathed. The forces pushing against him were enormous. Money, influence, fear. But they were no longer abstract. They had names, faces, patterns. And once patterns were seen, they could be broken. Inside the building, lights across the city flickered in sequence as night deepened. Systems humming, people moving, lives intersecting in ways no board could fully control. Marcus went back inside, closed the door softly, and checked on Ella one last time. She slept sprawled across the bed, hair wild, one arm flung above her head. He stood there longer than necessary, memorizing the sight. Tomorrow would bring another wave, another test. Another attempt to bend the story back into something safe and familiar. Marcus straightened as he turned away, a quiet certainty settling into place. They could apply pressure from every direction they wanted. He wasn't standing alone anymore, and he wasn't going anywhere. The press conference was scheduled for noon, but the pressure began hours earlier. Marcus woke to the sound of his phone, vibrating against the nightstand, a low, persistent hum that felt like a warning rather than a request. He silenced it without looking and lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet breathing from Ella's room. The city outside was already awake. He could feel it. A charged restlessness moving through concrete and glass. He made breakfast slowly. Eggs, toast, the ordinary anchors. Ella shuffled in, hair-tangled eyes, half open. "Is today the big talking day?" she asked around a yawn. "Yes," Marcus said. She nodded solemnly, then smiled. "Okay, don't forget your jacket. It's cold." He smiled back. Children had a way of shrinking chaos to size. The car ride downtown felt longer than usual. Traffic crawled. News vans clustered around the curb blocks from Ravenwood Group's headquarters. Helicopters traced lazy circles overhead. Marcus parked 2 levels down and took the stairs, each step measured, breath steady. Inside the building was transformed. Security checkpoints doubled. Temporary barriers funneled movement. Faces he didn't recognize watched him closely, eyes assessing, cataloguing. He passed through without breaking stride. Victoria Reynolds was waiting in a small conference room off the main lobby. No cameras, no glass walls, just a table, 2 chairs, and the low hum of ventilation. She looked tired. Not physically, ethically. "They're trying to split the narrative," she said without preamble. "Cast this as a failure of one department, one individual." Marcus set his jacket on the chair. "It won't hold." "No," she agreed. "But they'll try." She slid a folder across the table. "These are the last disclosures. Everything legal would let us release without a court order." Marcus opened it, read quickly. Emails, authorizations, names. Some he recognized, some he didn't. Patterns repeated. Control concentrated. Accountability diluted. They left fingerprints, he said. They assumed no one would look closely, Victoria replied. A knock at the door interrupted them. Denise stepped in, face pale but determined. "They're ready," she said. "And the board wants a word with Marcus. Alone." Victoria's jaw tightened. "No, they're insisting," Denise said, saying it's his last chance to reconsider. Marcus closed the folder. "It's fine," he said. Victoria searched his face. "They'll try to scare you. They already have," Marcus replied. It didn't work. The boardroom felt different without pretense. No polite distance, no ritual, just power exposed and defensive. 3 members sat at the table, the careful one, the loud one, the one who rarely spoke. "You've made your point," the loud one said immediately. "This has gone far enough." Marcus remained standing. "It has," he agreed. The careful one leaned forward. "We can end this cleanly," he said. "Settlement. Non-disclosure. Public statement thanking you for your service." Marcus looked at him. "You already tried that." That was before, the man replied. Before what Marcus asked. "Before you became a liability," the loud one snapped. Marcus felt no anger, only clarity. "I didn't become a liability," he said. "I became visible." Silence followed. The 3rd board member finally spoke, voice quiet, but sharp. "You don't understand what you're risking." Marcus met his gaze. "I understand exactly," he said. "You're risking exposure. I'm risking comfort. Those aren't the same." The careful one sighed. "If you go out there," he said, "you burn every bridge." Marcus thought of the broken drawer, the elevator stopping, the hearings, Ella's drawing. "Some bridges need to burn," he said. They stared at him, measuring, finding no leverage left. The press room roared the moment Victoria stepped onto the stage. Cameras clicked. Microphones surged forward. The logo behind her loomed large, suddenly fragile. She raised a hand, and the noise settled into a tense hush. Marcus stood just behind her, out of phrase, but present. He felt the weight of it then, the moment where stories locked into place. Victoria spoke clearly. She named failures. She named structures. She named people. She did not soften the language. Gasps rippled through the room. A reporter shouted a question. Another followed. The dam broke. When she finished, she stepped back and gestured slightly. Marcus moved forward into the lights. The room stilled again, curiosity sharpening into something closer to respect. "I'm not here as a hero," Marcus said. His voice carried steady and unadorned. "I'm here because systems don't fail quietly. They fail on the backs of people who don't get heard." Questions flew. He answered simply, directly. He did not dramatize. He did not accuse beyond what could be proven. The truth was heavy enough on its own. A reporter asked, "Why you?" Marcus paused. "Because I was close enough to see the cracks," he said, "and far enough down that no one thought I mattered." Another asked, "Are you afraid?" Marcus thought of Ella, of the city, of the long silence he had lived inside. "I was," he said. "I'm not anymore." The conference ended in controlled chaos. Statements issued, phones ringing, people rushing to manage fallout. Marcus stepped back, the noise washing over him. Victoria met his eyes. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. Not triumph, responsibility. By evening, arrests were announced. Not all. Enough. Investigations widened. Stock dipped, then stabilized. The city adjusted, as cities always did. Marcus went home. He picked up Ella from a neighbor's apartment where she'd been waiting. She ran to him, arms tight around his waist. "You did it," she said. "We did our day," Marcus replied, lifting her. That night, as Ella slept, Marcus sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, gone cold. His phone lay quiet for the first time in weeks. Outside, traffic moved in familiar patterns. The city exhaled. He knew this wasn't an ending. Consequences stretched far beyond a single day. But something fundamental had shifted. The ground beneath systems that thrived on silence had cracked. Marcus stood, turned off the lights, and looked once more toward Ella's room. He felt the exhaustion finally reach him deep and earned. Tomorrow the world would argue about what this all meant, Analysts would debate. Lawyers would posture. Power would regroup. Marcus lay down, knowing one thing with certainty. Whatever came next, it would not be built on his invisibility any more. The morning after the press conference arrived without ceremony, pale light slipping through the blinds like it had every other day of Marcus Hill's life. There were no sirens, no cameras outside the building, just the ordinary sounds of a city resuming its rhythm traffic, breathing in waves, a neighbor's radio drifting faintly through the wall. Marcus stood at the kitchen sink, rinsing a mug, watching Ella at the table, as she colored with intense concentration. She had drawn the building downtown, tall and glassy, and beside it a much smaller figure with broad shoulders and stick-figure arms. Above them she had written in careful block letters, "Dad worked hard." "You hungry?" Marcus asked. She nodded without looking up. "Can we walk to school today?" "Yes," he said. The word felt different now, lighter. At Ravenwood Group, the building no longer pretended nothing had happened. Temporary signage lined the lobby. New faces stood at the security desk. The atmosphere had shifted from fear to watchfulness, the kind that followed a storm when everyone checked the sky before moving on. Marcus did not have a badge anymore. Not the old one. He wore a visitor pass, clipped neatly to his jacket, issued without ceremony but without resistance. People noticed him now. Not in the way they had before. Some nodded. Some looked away. A few met his eyes and held them uncertain but respectful. Victoria Reynolds waited in the same quiet conference room as the day before, but the tension that had once sharpened every movement was gone. In its place sat something heavier. Responsibility. "They're restructuring," she said. "External oversight. Independent compliance. It won't fix everything, but it closes doors that shouldn't have been open." Marcus nodded. "That matters." She slid a single document across the table. Not an offer. Not a contract. A letter. "I'm stepping back from direct operational control," Victoria said. "Effective immediately." Marcus looked up. The board agreed. "They didn't," she replied. They adjusted. He studied her face, searching for calculation for the reflexive grip of power. He found none. Only resolve hard-earned and incomplete. "This isn't about me," Marcus said. "I know," Victoria answered. "That's why I'm doing it." They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that no longer needed defense. Outside, the city moved on. Investigations would continue. Careers would end. Others would begin. The story would be retold and misremembered, and simplified, stripped of nuance, by people who had never felt the pressure of invisible hands deciding where they belonged. Marcus returned home early that afternoon. He picked Ella up from school himself, their shadows stretching long across the sidewalk as they walked. She chatted about spelling, words, and playground arguments, the world already reshaping itself around smaller concerns. At home, she ran straight to the windowsill. "It needs water," she announced. Marcus followed her gaze. The small plant sat their leaves, thick and stubbornly green. It had arrived quietly that morning. While they were gone, left with the doorman, no explanation attached. A simple terracotta pot. No card, no name. They watered it together, Ella holding the cup carefully, while Marcus guided her hand. The soil darkened. The plant stood unchanged, patient. "What should we call it?" she asked. Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. "Hope," he said. Ella nodded, satisfied, as if the answer had always been obvious. That night after she slept, Marcus stood by the window and looked out at Atlanta lights scattered like constellations across the dark. Somewhere people he would never meet were making decisions that would ripple outward. Somewhere else, others were quietly choosing to speak when it mattered, unsure if anyone would listen. Marcus understood now that power did not always announce itself with titles or rooms at the top of buildings. Sometimes it lived in refusal, in clarity, in the choice not to disappear when disappearing was the safest option offered. He had been underestimated because it was convenient, because systems relied on men like him, staying quiet, staying grateful, staying unseen. That illusion had cracked. It would never fully mend. Marcus turned away from the window, shut off the light, and let the apartment settle into sleep. Tomorrow would come with its own demands, its own compromises. But tonight he allowed himself a rare certainty. The world had changed, not because someone powerful had decided it should, but because someone ordinary had refused to accept the terms he was given. If this story moved, you take a moment to like it, subscribe for more stories like this, and leave a comment with 3 words that capture what you felt.